I welcome the opportunity to speak in this debate, and in many ways it is the Goldilocks budget. Too hot for some like the ERSI, who urged constraint, too cold for others, that it did not go far enough, and just right for government who believe that it has struck the correct balance. Indeed, many thousands of households, farms, small businesses, restaurant owners, tourist operators, pub owners and hauliers will have been looking in anxiously, awaiting confirmation that they will have received something of substance in today's announcements. Today, however, I just want to outline a broad response, and I intend fully to deal with some of the specific measures tomorrow. The question I asked myself today is, does this budget meet the key tests, indeed the only tests that really matter? Does it secure the stability of public finances? And does it materially assist disadvantaged and working families, farms, businesses and communities, thereby enabling them to survive and thrive? Those are the key and fundamental questions. The sense is that while most people will have got something, almost everyone got little enough to make a big difference. But to be fair, there is much that was announced today that will be welcome. The increase in social welfare pensions, payments and cares rates will all be welcome, even if they do not go quite as far as myself and my colleagues in the Rural Independent Group would have liked, and as we had in our budget submission. For example, I welcomed the targeted mortgage interest rate relief and further supports to childcare, even though they do not go far enough and will be slow to bring relief. I also note the lump sum payments to those receiving social welfare of €200 living alone allowance, €400 cares support grant, €400 for disability support grant and €400 working family payment, €300 in terms of the fuel allowance. It would be nonsensical to stand up here and say that nothing good has been delivered. The increase to third-level grants and the partial restoration of some of the postgraduate funding grants is indeed welcome. A decision to fund the free book scheme in post-primary is necessary and will be welcomed. But our schools themselves are crying out for funding, especially around major and minor work projects. Commitments in that area have to be delivered. At the more specific financial level, however, we also know that changes to the VAT rates and structures were desperately needed by many sectors and workers right across the board. And it is here that I would like to add a note of balance to the government's entirely understandable sense of self-congratulation. We know, for example, that today's budget announced a range of measures in the order of almost €7 billion. But that money is generated on the back of Irish taxpayers. For example, in 2022, gross VAT receipts were €26.7 billion, which represents 23% of the total gross tax receipts, while the net VAT receipts were €18.8 billion, a 22% increase from 2021 and approximately 23% of the overall tax yield to the Exchequer. While this, of course, reflects an increase in consumer spending, it also reflects the extraordinary level of taxation that consumers and households are paying on goods and services. So while almost €7 billion was announced today, we must be honest and clearly place that within the context of an expected net VAT yield in 2024 of €20.4 billion. I really believe that this budget must also deliver for transport and the haulage sector. The haulage sector are a vital cog in our economic wheel here in Ireland, vital for keeping supply chains open, and it is essential. They contribute so much tax and everything else that they're looked after, and indeed their sector protected. We know that the majority of revenue yields from energy taxes come from fuels used in road transport. Indeed, CSO data also shows that households have paid up to 54% of all environmental taxes, while the services industry bore 33% of the environmental tax share. Households have also paid the highest level of environmental taxation at just over 207 billion of the environmental taxes per tonne of carbon dioxide. I think this is a point that we should not tire of repeating. Yes, there was much in today's budget that was good and that we can all support, but such measures were only possible because of the massive levels of environmental and other forms of taxation that bear down upon households, and those which I disagree with. The ministers touched upon some of the upcoming challenges in their speeches, and these were also reflected, as he will be aware, in a presentation of the tax strategy group by Brendan O'Connor, the head of the Economics Division of the Department of Finance. Mr O'Connor recently noted that in terms of the global economy, modest improvement is likely, but Ireland will face a low-growth, high-risk environment. In the medium term, growth is slowing, while we also face structural challenges related to decarbonisation. This is going to place massive social and financial costs on all sectors, including our farmers and transport sector. And that is why we need to do everything possible to ensure that we robustly strengthen Irish homegrown industry and the agri-sectors. We cannot rely long-term on revenue sources such as the likes of corporation tax. And I do want to add too that our agri-sector supports 170,000 jobs. There's not enough being delivered. There's actually a decrease of 17% in the amount of money delivered to agriculture. I'm concerned about it. I do hope that all sectors, whether it be dairy, tillage, beef and our sheep farmers, get adequate supports, and I will be asking further questions because I was disappointed with the lack of detail and indeed the vagueness of what we saw today in today's agriculture budget. Garv Magat.